All right, guys, our focus during this video is solving quadratic equations by completing the square mixed, where a is greater than 1. Okay, go ahead and throw this I can statement at the top of your notes. Go ahead and pause this video wherever you need to, and let's jump into our first example. So we are adding an additional step into our problems today, and that is we have to determine, do we need to pull out a GCF, that greatest common factor? What number goes into 5, negative 40, and 50? I can pull out a 5. So what that means is I can divide 5 by all of these terms. So 5 divided by 5 cancels. So I'm left with x squared. Negative 40 divided by 5, I'm left with negative 8x. Positive 50 divided by 5, I am left with 10. All right, so looking in those parentheses, I am still in standard form, that x squared minus 8x plus 10. I'm not going to worry about that 5 anymore. I pulled it out. I'm just making my problem easier. So same steps as our last video. I'm going to have to move this right here to the other side. I'm going to do that by subtracting 10. Why subtract 10? Well, positive 10 minus 10 cancels. So I am left with x squared minus 8x. Just like the last video, we're going to leave a blank. Equals 0 minus 10 is negative 10, and I'm going to leave a blank. All right, so now I'm going to take my middle term. Okay, I'm going to take my middle term right here, negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4, and then I'm going to take negative 4, and I'm going to square it, and set that equal to positive 16. That positive 16 is what I put on my blanks. All right, I'm almost there. So now I am able to have a perfect squares trinomial. Okay, a perfect squares trinomial. So I'm going to have x minus 4 squared equals negative 10 plus 16 is 6. Okay, so just the same thing as our last video. The only new piece is our greatest common factor. So now I have to solve. So in order to solve, I am going to take the square root of both sides. Why am I doing that? Because those cancel. So I'm left with x minus 4 equals, now if you were to type in the square root of 6, you would find that it is irrational. It is a decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as the square root of 6. I am, however, going to still have to get x by itself. How do I do it? I add. This cancels. X equals 4. Now remember, when you take the square root of a number, you always get a positive and a negative. So 4 plus or minus the square root of 6. Okay, so again, the only new piece was that greatest common factor. Just simply identifying, can I divide a number out to make life a little bit easier, to shorten up those problems. So you guys are going to take a minute. You are going to rewrite your steps for completing a square, because I am adding step 2 right here. Okay, pull out the GCF, that greatest common factor. So go ahead, pause this video, copy those steps down, and then we'll move on to the next example. Be sure to copy these down. You are getting points for your notes today. Okay, so when I look at this, I ask myself, first off, am I in standard form? I sure am. Okay, then I say, what number can go into all of these terms? Well, I think to myself, 4 is your smallest number. Okay, does 4 go in to those? All right, so sure does. 4 I can divide out. And really that's saying I can divide 4 into these terms. All right. Well, 4 divided by 4 cancels, so I'm left with x squared. Negative 80 divided by 4 is negative 20x. 360 divided by 4 is 90, and I've done nothing with the 0. Okay, so now looking at the inside, I see that I have to move this negative 90 to the other side. I do that by doing the inverse operation. 90 minus 90 cancels, so I'm left with x squared minus 20x. Leave that blank. 0 minus 90 is negative 90, and a blank. Then I'm going to take that middle term, that negative 20, divided by 2, and I get negative 10. Negative 10 squared is 100. Again, if you need to pause this video just to understand those steps that we've completed so far, please do so. We're going to add 100 to both sides. Well, I'm going to take x minus 10, because I'm working to get that perfect squares trinomial. Negative 90 plus 100 is 10. Not finished yet. I have to take the square root of both sides. Why? Because I'm trying to get x by itself, and those cancel. So I have x minus 10 on this left side. And then when I take the square root of 10, it's irrational, so I get a decimal. So I'm just going to simply say plus or minus the square root of 10. Whenever you take the square root of something, you can always have a positive and a negative. So I still have another step because I have to get rid of this negative 10. And I do so by adding it. Why did I add? Because negative 10 plus 10 is 0. So x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 10. Again, if you need to rewatch that video to help understand those steps, please do so. Make sure that you have listed all of your steps here with the inclusion of pulling out a GCF.